Willie D Live.
If you have a conversation with a youngster and you talk 90% of the time and they listen 10% of the time, that wasn't a successful conversation.
Nah, probably not.
But if you got them to open up to you and they talk 90% of the time and you listen 10%, the other 10% was you listening, then that was a successful conversation. What's the importance of us listening to young people, listening to the youth?
Well, you want to know where their mind is at, and what you want to do instead of trying to tell them what to do, you just want to impart. You don't just impart wisdom by telling. You impart wisdom by teaching kids to ask questions of they self and of the world.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you got to ask, the why, when, who, where, what. And once they mind get to turning like that, the results, because you already put in them what you done put in them.
Right.
You just got to trust them to figure it out. Now, you do give them some safeguards. I don't want you dropping out of school. I don't want you to get pregnant if you can before you're married. I want you to keep a job, further education. You know what I mean? Those things are just standards. You have to do those things to matriculate into adulthood and to be successful. You know what I mean? But I can't tell you everything to do because I don't know your path. The world changes, nuances. But if I can teach you to think, if I can teach you to sit on the edge of the bed in the morning after you done did your prayers and meditate and think, what's my day going to be like today? What's successful? Then you're going to get some measure of success.
Yeah, what are the consequences of my actions?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right, man.
Good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to the west side of Atlanta. I heard in one of your songs, you talked about how you were dropping your children off at the church daycare. You were sitting inside the church, praying to God for purpose.
Yeah, that's how I remember dropping my babies off to church nervous. I remember sitting hurt all alone in the church service, asking God to reveal me a plan of higher purpose.
Yeah, higher purpose.
For real.
Right, because at the end of the day, I think that's what most of our young people and not so young people are looking for.
Yeah.
But I read a quote the other day on Instagram, and I said, I'm going to bring this up in the conversation. And it said that the hood never lacked talent.
No.
What the hood lacked was resources.
Yeah. And not only just lack resources, but how to use your resources. We don't even all the time lack resources. You just don't know what to do with what you got because you're being told by everybody what to do. And again, it's like watching a toddler figure something out. You have people that are overdoting with children. Oh, don't let him, he gonna hurt himself. Let him fall. That's why they mostly made of water. God knew what he was doing. You know what I mean? So they gonna be all right. You gotta figure it out. When a child falls, sometimes you rush to help them. They cry, and that's teach them to get attention. Then they cry, getting more attention. But when you let them alone and let him figure it out, he'll be okay. Mostly fathers do. Stop. Let them figure it out. Then your daughter, you might go. But especially with boys, you have to let them and trust them to figure it out and encourage that thinking. You're not. A lot of times people say, I'm trying to raise a child. Absolutely. But what you're trying to do is raise that child into a thinking human being. Human being that can operate. As human beings, we're not born with claws. We don't have extremely long teeth. We don't have a lot of weapons. So the strongest thing that's in us has been our mind and our ability to operate as a team, as a tribe. You know what I mean? If we can just figure more of that out, the resources are there in some capacity. They didn't have proper food, so you figured out how to cook scraps, and now they charge you $50 for the scraps. I go to a restaurant, man. I love this restaurant. I ain't even gonna give people the name. I love it so much. It's me and my wife go in L.A. and I pay $50 for a bone marrow pie, and I laugh so hard because I'm like, my grandma used to make this pie for free. My grandma would go to the butcher, get scraps of beef from the cheeks to everything they didn't use. She'd get the actual bone, cook the bone marrow, and she'd tell you, eat the bone marrow, and now you come around, white folks telling you, well, now you're supposed to do this, it's better for, I was like, my grandma been told me that. Now they pay, you go to a resort, white folks charge you to take your shoes off and walk in the grass until you recharge it. My grandma made the summers just say, hey, man, take your shoes off and walk in the yard. They knew it already. So your resources a lot of times are there, but you don't respect it because you've been taught not to respect yourself. You know what I mean? But you think about it, man, I didn't see them get sick a lot. I got sick 2 days ago. I was sick as a dog. I just fasted. I just didn't eat for 2 days. First time I ate some chicken last night. I finally put some protein in my body. But I understood, like my grandmother, she would have us fast on Wednesdays when I was a child.
Really?
Yeah. Fast half-day Wednesdays. So she would fast, and my grandfather fasted. But they just taught us so much of what my great-grandparents, my grandparents taught us on realizing was the absolute truth. But then nobody believed it till it was on a book, and Oprah, Oprah have the book of Dr. Oz or something. Yeah. But I go back, man, I listen to even old Reverend Ike sermons. When you hear Reverend Ike talk about something divine is in you,
yes, sir,
and you can manifest the things you want. You know, everybody act like manifest a new word. You know, Reverend Ike was slick, man. He would talk about manifesting in the late 70s, early 80s. So, you know, I'm just saying in our community, we even have the resources, but you got to believe they're worthy.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do you think are our greatest resources for those who don't have quote-unquote resources?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you are your greatest resource. You know, a lot of them make no mistake. Your self-determination, your will to win, your want to figure it out. You know, again, intermittent fasting is the biggest thing in the world now. Oh, man, we only eat once a day. Noor Muhammad been telling you that the last 5 years. Elijah Muhammad been telling you that the last 70 years. Ms. Farrakhan been telling you that the last 50 years. But you didn't believe it until a cock-strong white boy got on there and told you, which is still good for you. But just saying, man, believe your people. Give it a try. Look at them. You know, when you see the FO out there in a suit, they ain't sweating. You like, man, whatever they doing, I need to do. You know what I'm saying? It's working for them. Maybe I should try it too. So the first and best resource you have is that mind and that will to learn. You know, I heard, man, I remember disagreeing vehemently, man, with Dr. Bill Cosby when he went, you know, prior to all the, you know, the things that the allegations that came, but when he was just talking about black people failing ourselves with not valuing education, things of that nature. So he came and spoke at my high school. I wasn't in school at the time, but I went to the high school just to hear him speak, and I was ready to disagree with him. Jump up, you know, talk my talk on the behalf of black young folks and rappers. And man, he said something. He said, hey, you have failed because you have free education and you're not taking advantage of it. Now, I know the school system is not perfect, but when it comes to reading, writing, and arithmetic, if you can read well, you can write well, and you can figure out arithmetic, there are very few things that can stop you from matriculating into something greater. Because they always gonna need good readers, they always need a good writer, and if you know arithmetic, you know everything from coding to algebra. And I realized that part of our culture's failure was that we stopped valuing the resource of education in the way. I don't have to care about your history. I know your history a lot, right? I know where I am in your history, so I put that truth in there. But the basic cornerstones of, can our children read? Can our children write well? Can our children master mathematics? If they can do that, they can be competitive. And once you start to be competitive as an individual, you can team up with other people that are competitive. Then you become a competitive group. When you take Asian Americans, for instance, my daughter now goes to a school that's more diverse. She went all the way through middle school, just all black. When it came time for her to go to high school, her mother and I talked and said, well, we're gonna see about some other stuff, because her cousins at the all black school. It's a great school, but I'm just like, when them cousins get together, all kind of thugging happen too, you know? So we put her at another school, and what she learned and what I've learned is the Asian kids who typically score higher, they study in groups. You gotta think about that. And individually, she a dog about her studies. She that Spanish grade was low. She got it up to 87 by herself. But she has a circle of friends where they all are smart. And when they study together, it's even more powerful.
I agree.
And we have to start to emulate that. Elijah Muhammad says, study other people that are successful. Study groups of people that are successful. We have to do that. And we have to return the things that we did. My great-grandmother's mother, my great-grandmother actually taught her mother and her children to read. So everybody, as a group, they're learning together. And there's an encouragement factor, because once children become confident and they become competent, ain't no competition. You know, it ain't nothing stopping them, because the only thing you compete with then is in the mirror.
So we need to make education and knowledge of self a group effort.
Black folks should stop complaining about what the public school system would do, should do, or could do, and focus on the things that the public education school can do right. You can teach me 2 + 2 is 4. You can teach me proper grammar and punctuation skills, right? You can teach me the very basics of that. Take that, and then on Saturdays we should be having our own school.
Saturday school.
You know, just like other cultures have. You know, my Jewish friends went to regular school, and then on Saturday they had to go, like, for others. I'm saying, what you going? Well, we learn about a Torah, we learn Hebrew. At the back, I remember I went to the synagogue with my accountant. At the back of the synagogue was all these cards with the businesses. So if they're gonna look to do business, they look to do business with one another first. I'm just like, oh, okay. When I went to a Presbyterian church, you know, all denominations in that church, but the Presbyterians focused on having their own school in terms of how do we teach Christianity from a Presbyterian standpoint, who are the Presbyterian carpenters, who are the Presbyterian plumbers. And I'm just like, okay, so black people, really that's all we need to do. We need to focus on what is our Saturday school and our after school. What 2 hours are we gonna give on a Saturday? Like all of us, Swahili is the most common spoken language, I think, in Africa. The brothers in jail already put it together. They already started speaking Swahili so they could get around the guards talking. So those brothers are resources. As those brothers get out, why are those brothers not the ones teaching the young brothers Swahili? You know, we should already know how to say hello. We should already know words to be able to speak in a room full of people, because other people do it. Other groups of people can speak in a room full of people. And now you go get your nails done, and you don't know what the hell they say. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you know at the end of it, $125. Right. They want $125. They say that better. They said anything. They say the whole time. So I think that we have to do that. We have to understand everything does not have to be public. Everything does not have to be validated by other people. Some things are best kept private. Every conversation is not meant for everybody.
Agreed.
You know, my grandfather used to tell me, man, stay out of white folks' business. And I never knew what that meant. But what it meant was mind your own business. Tend to your own house. Tend to your own crops. And that way, your community will be what you want it to be versus you looking at other communities saying, why? You know?
We'd be less concerned about whether or not they're going to teach that black people benefited from slavery. Because we know on Saturdays, we teaching the truth to our youngsters.
Absolutely. And I got some opinions on that I won't even talk about. I just said some stuff best unsaid.
Okay, so, if you say so.
Yeah, so I mean it is, because until you really learn what it was for real, you're not gonna hear the news. Like one of the best things that happened to me and members of my crew was when the doctor said, hey man, you pre-diabetic, you better get it together now. Well, that gives you another discipline. You say, okay, I got to go read How to Eat to Live again. I got to focus on eating like this. I got to have a certain discipline. So diabetes ravages us, right? But hearing that news to me and members of my crew made us transform the way we move. I done lost a little weight. So, you know, I'm not saying slavery was good or beneficial. I'm saying, boy, if I'm the only person know how to pick cotton and we just got free, oh, you have to pay me to pick some cotton now, baby. Yeah, they ain't free no more. Yeah, I'm not your slave no more. Now we in a free market. Now we exist in a capitalist system.
That go back to using your resources.
Now it's not. And for people who don't know this, it's important you do know this. Because I used to wonder when I was a kid, how does one buy one's family out of slavery? If I'm a slave, I'm not getting paid. But every farmer, you have a master class in the South. Those were the rich people who owned damn near everything. They still do to this day. Crawford Long was the guy who invented an anesthesia to put people to sleep to essentially in the Civil War, cut their limbs and stuff off, right? He owns part of my father's family. This ain't no myth or no hypothesis. We were owned by his family. I'm of that lineage, right?
In Georgia?
Yep, in Georgia. Crawford Long. Named a hospital for him. He sits in the state capitol now. They asked me to come to the family reunion. I said, no, I'm okay, thank you. But this man, having owned human beings, at some point, somebody on there was smart enough to start another leg of this family, had his black family. They would use their resources to buy their own land. So my great-grandfather had a farm. My great-grandfather didn't have to be dependent on anybody. His children didn't. There were things that he took from that was a horrible experience, but it enriched him in a way that allowed him to be a better man. There was things that Moses learned in the house of Pharaoh that the Israelites needed when they were wandering through that wilderness for 40 years. And even though he couldn't go into the promised land, he made sure Aaron knew, hey, these are the things you need to know and not know. So when you get to the promised land, this is how we should be operating. So you have to find, even in your suffering, a purpose.